If fate had a sense of humor, it must have been laughing its ass off when I tripped over my own shoelaces and landed chest first into the arms of the one man I swore I would never embarrass myself in front of. And of course, he thought I had done it on purpose. "You always fall this close, or is that just when I'm around?" he asked, his tone caught between mocking and intrigued, like he wasn't sure if he should push me away or pull me closer. I wanted to sink into the cracked New York pavement right then and there. His name was Ethan. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a smirk that could knock the air out of your lungs before you even realized you were holding your breath. And me? I was Daniel, the guy who couldn't even look another man in the eyes without fumbling like I was juggling knives. But it wasn't my fault. Ethan had that kind of presence. The kind that made your stomach twist into knots and your words stumble over themselves. Every time he was near, my clumsy side went from embarrassing to catastrophic. And he noticed. Oh, he noticed. "Relax, I'm not gonna bite," he said once, leaning against the counter of the cafe where I worked. His tone made it sound like he could bite if he wanted to, though, and that thought alone was enough to send a blush crawling up my neck. New York was merciless that fall. The wind cut like glass, biting through my jacket as I left the cafe late at night, but I almost welcomed it. The cold was easier to deal with than the heat Ethan's presence stirred in me. He wasn't just a customer anymore, had become something like a storm orbiting my every thought. And yet, the cruelest part of it all? He thought I was teasing him. That every stammer, every trip, every wide-eyed stare was my way of playing some twisted game of seduction. If only he knew. The first time we actually talked outside the cafe, it was by accident. Or maybe destiny, depending on how you looked at it. I had been carrying a box of supplies, too heavy for my scrawny arms, when it tipped, and a cascade of coffee beans rolled across the sidewalk like marbles. I cursed under my breath, crouching to pick them up, and that's when I saw his shoes. Black leather boots, polished, standing too close. "You always this graceful? Or is today special?" My head snapped up, and there he was, Ethan, with his hands shoved casually into his pockets, that smirk tugging at his lips. "It's not what it looks like," I stammered. "Oh, so you didn't just throw coffee all over the street to impress me?" My ears burned. "No. Relax, kid," he chuckled, bending down to help me scoop up beans. His hands brushed against mine, just for a second, but it was enough to make me freeze. His skin was warm, too warm. That was the night I realized this wasn't just a harmless crush. This was dangerous. Because every accidental touch, every glance that lingered a moment too long, was pulling me into something I wasn't sure I was ready for. But Ethan wasn't an easy man to read. Sometimes he looked at me like I was a puzzle he wanted to solve. Other times, he looked at me like I was nothing more than a clumsy kid who amused him. And maybe that was what hurt the most. Still, I couldn't stay away. I didn't want to. Weeks passed, and our interactions became routine. He'd stop by the cafe, order the same black coffee, and tease me about whatever ridiculous thing I did that day, dropping a cup, spilling milk, fumbling with the register. And every time, his eyes lingered just a little too long, like he was waiting for me to slip again. One night, after closing, I found him leaning against the lamppost outside, as if he had been waiting for me. "You walk this way home, right?" he asked. "Yeah," I said carefully. "Good. Let's go." Just like that, we started walking together. The city was loud, buzzing with energy, but between us, there was a strange quiet. A quiet filled with unspoken words, with tension so thick I could almost taste it. By the time winter came, Ethan was no longer just a customer or a stranger. He was a presence in my life, an anchor and a storm all at once. And the more time we spent together, the more my clumsiness turned into something else, something raw, something vulnerable. He noticed the way my hands shook when they brushed against his. He noticed the way my voice cracked whenever he leaned too close. And somewhere along the way, his smirk softened. One night, after we had walked in silence for nearly 10 blocks, he finally said it. "You know, if you're trying to seduce me, you're doing a terrible job." I stopped in my tracks, heart slamming against my ribs. "I'm not," he cut me off, stepping closer. "Then why do you look at me like that?" My breath caught. "Like what?" Like you're scared of what you're feeling. Like you want something but don't know how to ask for it. His words sliced through me, too sharp, too true. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to tell him that every stumble, every awkward moment, wasn't seduction, it was me drowning in feelings I couldn't control. But before I could answer, he reached out, his hand hovering just above mine. Not touching, but close enough to make my skin ache for contact. "I'm not the kind of guy you play games with," he said softly. "So tell me, Daniel, what is it you really want?" And just like that, I realized this wasn't a game. Not anymore. The air between us grew sharp after that night. Ethan's question echoed in my head on repeat. What is it you really want? I didn't have an answer then. Maybe I still didn't. All I knew was that the more time I spent with him, the more unbearable it became to stay silent. My body betrayed me, very nervous laugh, every lingering stare, every time my hands fumbled as though they wanted to touch him but didn't dare. And Ethan, he noticed everything. The shift was subtle at first. He wasn't just teasing anymore. He studied me carefully, like he was looking for cracks in the armor I didn't even realize I had built. His words were sharper, his silences heavier. "You're hiding something," he said once as we walked down 8th Avenue. His voice almost lost to the chaos of honking cars and chatter. "I'm not," I lied, stuffing my hands into my jacket pockets. "You are," he insisted, glancing at me with that piercing gaze of his. "You think clumsiness is a shield, but I see right through it." I had no reply. I couldn't meet his eyes. Because the truth was written all over me, painted in every flushed cheek and trembling hand. It all came crashing down one Friday night. The cafe was buzzing with customers, and Ethan had chosen the worst time to come in, when I was exhausted, anxious, and balancing 3 coffee cups in one hand. Predictably, I spilled one. Hot espresso splashed across the counter, dripping onto the floor, and my heart sank. "Damn it," I muttered, grabbing napkins, my hands trembling. "That's one way to get my attention," Ethan drawled from across the counter, leaning casually, his smirk in place but his eyes darker than usual. "Not now, Ethan," I said, sharper than I meant to. Something flickered in his expression, but he didn't back off. Instead, he leaned closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "Tell me why you keep doing this," he whispered. "Tell me why you shake every time I walk in here. Is it me, or is it the idea of me?" My breath hitched, and suddenly the cafe felt too small, too crowded, too suffocating. "It's not like that," I stammered, though my voice betrayed me. Ethan tilted his head, studying me with unnerving calm. "Then what is it like, Daniel? Because from where I'm standing, it looks a hell of a lot like you want me." The words hit me like a slap. My chest tightened, and I looked away, unable to meet his eyes. Customers buzzed around us, oblivious, but it felt like the world had narrowed down to just him and me. Finally, I whispered, "Maybe I do." The silence that followed was deafening. When I finally dared to glance up, Ethan's smirk was gone. His jaw was tense, his eyes unreadable. He stepped back, creating space between us, and the distance felt like a knife to the gut. "You don't know what you're saying," he muttered, almost to himself, before turning and walking out. I stood frozen behind the counter, espresso dripping from the edge, my whole body trembling. For days after that, Ethan didn't show up. No late-night walks, no teasing remarks, no warm presence leaning against the cafe counter. I told myself it was for the best, that I had ruined everything by opening my mouth, by admitting the thing I'd been burying for months. But the truth? The silence was unbearable. Every night, I walked home alone, the city lights blurring as if mocking me. I replayed his words over and over. "You don't know what you're saying." Maybe he was right. Maybe I was just a clumsy kid with a crush too big for his own good. Maybe he would never look at me the way I looked at him. But then, one night, as I passed the corner where we used to part ways, I saw him, Ethan, leaning against the lamppost, hands shoved into his pockets, looking like he hadn't slept in days. My heart lurched. "Ethan," I started, but he cut me off. Don't, he said, his voice hoarse. Don't say my name like that. Like what? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Like it means something to you. It does? I blurted out before I could stop myself. His eyes snapped to mine, burning. You think this is a game? You think falling all over yourself, blushing every time I look at you, means you're ready for what comes with me? I swallowed hard. I don't know if I'm ready, but I know I don't want to keep pretending I don't feel this. For a long moment, he just stared at me, his chest rising and falling like he was fighting some inner battle. Finally, he let out a bitter laugh. You have no idea what you're asking for, Daniel. Then show me, I whispered. That night, the walls between us cracked. We didn't kiss. Not yet. But we stood there under the glow of the lamppost, closer than ever before, the air thick with everything we couldn't say. Ethan's hand brushed mine, tentative, hesitant, but real. And for the first time, I let myself believe. But belief wasn't enough. The world had a way of reminding us that not every story gets to be simple. One evening, a man walked into the Cave Simeon, tall, rugged, with a scar across his jaw and eyes that carried history. He didn't order anything. He just stood there, staring at me like I was in the way. Then Ethan walked in. The look on Ethan's face when he saw the man was one I had never seen before: shock, anger, maybe even fear. Logan, Ethan muttered under his breath. The man smirked. Miss me? My stomach dropped. The tension between them was palpable, electric, like a storm about to break. I didn't know who Logan was. I didn't know what history he carried with Ethan. But the way Ethan's fists clenched, the way his jaw tightened, told me one thing. This man wasn't just anyone. And suddenly, I realized I wasn't just clumsy anymore. I was standing in the middle of something bigger, something dangerous, something that could either tear us apart or bind us together forever. That night, Ethan didn't walk me home. He barely looked at me as he stormed out with Logan trailing behind him. I stood frozen, my chest aching, wondering if I had just lost him before I ever truly had him. The next few days were chaos. Ethan didn't show up. My calls went unanswered. And every time the cafe door swung open, my heart jumped, only to sink again when it wasn't him. When he finally did come back, he looked different, harder, more closed off. Ethan, what's going on? I demanded, stepping out from behind the counter to block his path. He glanced at me, his eyes tired, almost broken. You shouldn't be involved in this. In what? Me? I shook my head, my voice cracking. It's too late for that. I already am. For the first time, Ethan's mask slipped. His hand reached out, trembling, before he pulled it back like touching me would burn him. You don't understand what it costs to be near me, he said, his voice low. And I can't, God, Daniel, I can't be the reason you get hurt. But you already are, I whispered. His eyes closed, as if my words had struck him where it hurt most. And for the first time, I saw the truth hiding beneath his smirk, beneath his guarded stares. Ethan wasn't just afraid of me. He was afraid of himself. That night, lying in my bed, staring at the cracks on the ceiling, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just falling for Ethan. I was already gone. The night after Ethan's warning, I barely slept. His words haunted me. You don't understand what it costs to be near me. What could it possibly mean? Why was Logan's sudden reappearance enough to shake him so deeply? By morning, I was a mess, dark circles under my eyes, nerves frayed, body restless. And yet, as if fate enjoyed twisting the knife, Ethan showed up at the cafe again. Not alone. Logan followed him inside, moving with that smug confidence of someone who thought he owned the room. I froze behind the counter. Ethan's jaw tightened the moment his eyes landed on me. Logan, on the other hand, looked almost amused. So this is the kid, Logan said, his voice low and mocking. The reason you've been different. My stomach dropped. Different? What did that even mean? Ethan shot him a look sharp enough to kill. Shut up, Logan. But Logan didn't stop. He stepped closer to the counter, leaning against it as though he belonged there. His eyes scanned me up and down, predatory. Does he know? About you? About us? The word us rang in my ears like a gunshot. My throat went dry. Logan. I swear to God, Ethan started, but I cut him off. About what? I demanded, my voice shaking. Neither of them answered right away. The cafe suddenly felt too loud, every clink of cups and hiss of the espresso machine clashing with the silence between us. Finally, Ethan muttered, "It's complicated." Logan smirked. "That's one word for it." That night, I couldn't keep the questions inside. When Ethan finally caught up with me outside the cafe, I didn't let him brush it off. "You owe me the truth," I said, my voice cracking under the weight of everything I was holding in. His eyes softened for a moment, then hardened again. "Daniel, it's not. Don't you dare tell me it's not my business," I snapped. "You walk me home every night. You make me feel things I can't even put into words. And then you tell me to stay away? You don't get to do that. Not anymore." Ethan's shoulders slumped as though the fight drained out of him. He leaned against the lamppost, the same one where so many of our conversations had begun, and for once he looked vulnerable. "Logan and we go back a long way," he said finally. "Back to a version of me you wouldn't recognize. He was part of that. And trust me when I say you don't want to know the details." "Try me," I whispered. His jaw clenched, and for a long moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, slowly, he said, "I wasn't always this guy you see now. I was reckless, angry, and Loganhi was worse. We did things, stupid things, dangerous things." His voice lowered. "Things I'm not proud of." I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. "And now he's back. And if you're near me, you're a target." Ethan's eyes met mine, raw and pained. "Do you get it now, Daniel? You make me want to be better. And that's exactly why you're in danger." My chest ached. I wanted to argue, to tell him I wasn't afraid, but deep down, I knew he believed every word. Still, I whispered, "I don't care. I want you anyway." For a moment, something cracked in him. His hand reached out, brushing against mine, desperate, almost trembling. Our eyes locked, and for a second, I thought he might finally close the space between us. But then he pulled away. "No," he said, voice rough. "Not like this. Not until I know you'll be safe." And just like that, he walked away, leaving me standing in the cold, shattered all over again. The next week was hell. Logan lingered like a shadow, showing up at the cafe, always smirking, always watching. Ethan avoided me, his presence like a ghost I couldn't touch. And I was unraveling. I tripped twice carrying orders, burned my hand on the espresso machine, nearly dropped a tray of muffins. My coworkers teased me, but they didn't understand. My clumsiness wasn't just nerves anymore. It was heartbreak manifesting in every shaky movement. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I found Ethan outside the bar he sometimes went to, leaning against the wall, cigarette glowing faintly between his fingers. "You don't even smoke," I blurted, because I didn't know what else to say. He glanced at me, startled. "Daniel, you shouldn't be here." "I don't care," I said. "I'm tired of you deciding what I can handle. If Logan's a threat, then Fanul deal with him. But don't you dare shut me out just because you're scared." His eyes darkened. "You don't get it. Logan doesn't just walk away. He'll keep pushing until one of us breaks." "Then let him push," I snapped, surprising even myself. "Because I'm not walking away from you." For the first time, Ethan's mask slipped entirely. His cigarette dropped to the ground, forgotten, as he stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him. "You have no idea what you're saying," he whispered. "Then make me understand," I whispered back. And that was it. The dam broke. His hand cupped my face, rough and desperate, and his lips crashed against mine like a storm finally unleashed. It wasn't soft or careful. It was raw, messy, filled with everything we'd been holding back. For the first time, I wasn't clumsy. For the first time, I knew exactly what I wanted. When we finally pulled apart, both of us breathless, Ethan rested his forehead against mine. "You're going to ruin me," he murmured. "Then let me," I said. But love doesn't erase danger. The very next day, Logan made his move. I was leaving the cafe late when I felt someone following me. My steps quickened, my heart racing, until a hand grabbed my arm and shoved me into the alley. "Logan." He smirked down at me, eyes glinting in the dim light. "So you're the reason Ethan thinks he can change. Cute." "Let me go," I hissed, trying to pull away. "Relax, kid. I'm not here to hurt you. Not yet. Just wanted to see what kind of person could make him soft." He leaned closer, his breath hot against my ear. "Here's some advice. Walk away before he destroys you." I shoved him, more out of fear than strength, and bolted. My chest burned as I ran, but I didn't stop until I was safe inside my apartment, the door locked behind me. That night, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just fighting for Ethan's heart anymore. I was fighting for his life and mine. When I told Ethan what happened, his face darkened with fury. "He touched you?" he demanded, pacing the small space of my apartment. "He didn't hurt me," I said quickly, "but he made it clear's not going away." Ethan cursed under his breath, running a hand through his hair. "I should have known he'd drag you into this." "Then stop pushing me away," I pleaded. "Let me in. Whatever this is, whatever you're carrying, stop carrying it alone." For a moment, his eyes softened, and I saw the man beneath the storm, the man who wanted to believe in us, even if it terrified him. Finally, he whispered, "Okay." That was the night everything changed. Not because the danger vanished, it hadn't. Logan was still out there, lurking, waiting, but because for the first time, Ethan let me stand beside him instead of behind him. We stayed up until dawn talking. About his past, about mine, about the fears that haunted us both. Ethan confessed things I never thought he'd say, mistakes, regrets, scars he tried to bury. And instead of running, I stayed. Because beneath the danger, beneath the pain, there was love. Messy, terrifying, imperfect love. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of falling. The days after Ethan let me in were unlike anything before. For the first time, the weight wasn't just on his shoulders, it was on ours. Together. He came by the cafe in the mornings, no longer just to tease but to sit quietly, his black coffee cooling as he watched me work. At night, he walked me home, our hands brushing more often than not, and sometimes, when the streets were empty, he'd pull me close, pressing a fleeting kiss to my lips like it was both a promise and a warning. But the shadow of Logan never left. Every corner felt heavier, every glance over the shoulder sharper. I wasn't just clumsy anymore, I was alert, waiting for the storm we both knew was coming. And it came sooner than either of us expected. It was a Saturday evening, the cafe winding down, when Logan walked in again. This time, he didn't bother with smirks or taunts. His eyes locked on Ethan, who'd been sitting near the window, and the tension snapped like a live wire. "Outside," Logan said. His tone wasn't a request. Ethan stood, calm but coiled, like a man bracing for a fight. "Not here." "Then let's go where no one will interrupt." Panicked. Ethan, but he shook his head, his hand brushing mine just for a second. A silent plea, "Trust me." And then he was gone, following Logan out into the night. I couldn't sit still. Every fiber of me screamed to follow, to run after him, but fear rooted me in place. What if I got in the way? What if I made it worse? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I locked up the cafe early and trailed them through the streets of New York, the city buzzing around me like it had no idea the world was about to collapse. I found them in an abandoned lot, shadows long under the harsh glow of a streetlight. Logan stood with his arms crossed, his voice sharp and venomous. "You've gone soft, Ethan. All because of some kid who can't even carry a box without tripping. Pathetic." "Leave him out of this," Ethan growled. "Can't," Logan sneered. "Because he's the proof that you're not the man you used to be. And if you're not that man, then what the hell are you?" "I'm better than I was," Ethan shot back. "Because of him." The words punched through me like a lightning strike. Logan laughed, bitter and cold. "Better? No, you're weak. And weak men don't survive. That's when he lunged. I don't know what I was thinking, maybe I wasn't thinking at all, but my body moved before my brain caught up. I ran into the lot, shouting Ethan's name. Both men froze. Logan's eyes narrowed. Unbelievable, he muttered. He's dragging you down with him. He shoved Ethan hard, sending him stumbling back. Then his gaze fixed on me. This is your fault, Logan snarled. You turned him into this. Fear burned in my chest, but I stood my ground, trembling and defiant. No, he turned himself into this, because he wanted more than whatever twisted life you had together. For a second, Logan's expression flickered anger, confusion, maybe even something like regret. But then it hardened again. You don't belong in this world, kid, he spat. Maybe not, I said, my voice shaking. But I belong with him. Ethan moved then, faster than I'd ever seen, stepping between us. His hand found mine, squeezing tight, anchoring me. His voice was steady, final. It's over, Logan. Whatever we were, it's done. You can hate me, you can hate what I've become, but you don't get to touch him. Not now. Not ever. For a long moment, the three of us stood frozen, the city noise distant, the air electric. Then Logan let out a low laugh, shaking his head. You'll regret this, he muttered. Both of you. And just like that, he walked away, his shadow stretching long and sharp until it disappeared into the dark. Silence swallowed the lot. Ethan's grip on my hand didn't loosen. His chest rose and fell, each breath ragged, his body trembling not with fear but with release. It's over, I whispered, though part of me knew Logan's words weren't a promise, they were a threat. But Ethan turned to me, his eyes raw, unguarded in a way I'd never seen. No, it's just beginning. And then he kissed me. This time it wasn't desperate or rushed. It was slow, deep, filled with everything we'd been too afraid to say. The world could fall apart around us, and I wouldn't have cared. Because in that moment, under the streetlight, Ethan was mine, and I was his. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Logan's absence lingered like a bruise we couldn't stop poking. But he didn't return. Not yet. Ethan admitted he didn't know if Logan was gone for good or waiting for another chance. But for once, we didn't let fear dictate our lives. Instead, we built something. He started helping at the cafe. Not because he needed the work, but because, as he put it, I like seeing you drop things. He'd lean over the counter, smirking, and I'd roll my eyes, pretending not to melt every time his fingers brushed mine. We found a rhythm: morning coffees, late-night walks, quiet talks on my couch where secrets became confessions and confessions became trust. And slowly, the weight of the past loosened its grip. One night, months later, I asked him the question that had haunted me since the beginning. When you first met me, I said softly, my head resting on his shoulder, did you really think I was trying to seduce you? He chuckled, low and warm. Absolutely, I groaned, burying my face in his chest. You're impossible. But then I realized, he continued, his hand threading through my hair. You weren't trying at all. You were just you, awkward, clumsy, honest. And that's what ruined me. I lifted my head, meeting his eyes. In a good way? The best way, he said, before kissing me again. We never pretended life was perfect. Logan's shadow might always linger, and Ethan's past would never fully disappear. But we weren't defined by it anymore. We were defined by the way his hand found mine when I stumbled. By the way my laughter broke through his walls. By the way messy, clumsy, terrifying love turned us into something stronger than either of us had been alone. And maybe that was enough. No, it was everything. Months later, as spring bloomed across the city, Ethan walked me home after another long shift. The air was warm, the streets alive with music and chatter. I tripped, of course, because some things never change, and he caught me steady and sure. Still clumsy, he teased. Still here. I shot back, grinning. He stopped, pulling me close under the soft glow of a streetlight, just like that first night. His voice was low, certain. And you always will be. And for the first time in forever, I believed him. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, Please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.